in the Shaar Hakavanot on page Kuf Yud Bet. So it's a little confusing. Once again, he has so much arichos here that it's a little confusing for me where to start. So we'll start here with by number V'hine Zivug Shel Halaylo, and the topic is Zivug Delaylo Hu L'Tzorach Zivug Deyom. V'hine Zivug Shel Laylo Bein Zivug De'Abba V'Iba V'Bein Zivug Dezun. Kevin Shehu Gerua Mezivug Shel Hayom. So since it's less or it's lower, Muchrachu Sheyeyet Tzorach Haschalus Tikun the Zivug Shel Hayom. So therefore, it's the beginning. It's like the ball rolling type of thing. It's the initiation of the zivug that's going to take place in the daytime. Ki zeh of the zivug and the asa b'yom b'layla. Excuse me. That zivug that takes place at nighttime. Gorim Tikun. It causes a tikkun, v'konenes kli yisod, and the preparation of the kli of yisod of the nukva. Kadei shetuchul achar kach la'alo zman, b'kol hahu zivug, the b'kli hahu, in that kli that's been made, b'zivug and na'asa b'yom, for the yichud and the daytime. So, that simple enough statement is that this is a preparation, and we started into the Tiv Hakavanot over here, and so we could look at it because I see it goes like this. It's like the Tiv Hakavanot has some arichos, and the arichos runs through this little pasuk, and then you come back, and there's the Shefa Hakavanot, and maybe it's just a little confusing the way the pages are. Let's go to number, we're on the right column at the bottom, and it says, V'hine b'vur b'zohar the b'shas b'ir rishona. Nosen the zachar mi'yisod ha'ol the yisod ha'nekeva, b'chines rucha. So the zachar is the aspect of ruach anyway, so that's who he is. He puts that into her. So b'chines chamisha gevuros anitnim b'yisoda, and specifically, what is the rucha? The rucha is the 5 gevuros. What's the purposes? That through the koach of what? Of these gevuros, Yecholim habirurim la'alos laman the yisod. Okay, so it's the ability to be able to generate mayim nukvin from that low place. All of the gevuros do that. Yisod the kabel as hamayim duchrin v'hamaman b'letzayer sham tzuras vlad. So those words, I just want to go one more time over that. It allows what to take happen. Now, first of all, he says the koach of the kliya yisod. So he says because he was talking about the five gevuros. They go into the yisod of the nukva. Here he's talking about, I think, the kliya of the yisod of the zohar, but I'm not sure. The kabel es amad, to be able to receive the mayim duchrin that will go back into the nuk, and also the mayim nukvin that will allow it to go up. It becomes an interface. But the tzayir sham tzuras of vlad, and as a result of that, because this allows for the formation of the vlad. And I'm sure that I really got the connection between all of that exactly. Let's see how it goes like this. So how does it work? The bia rishona, first they have to have a bia rishona. And he places this rucha, which now he's identified as gevuros. So he says, who Abba places inside of her as a bechinas arucha. Okay, so normally my problem here would be think that Abba normally is associated with not with gevuros, but with chesadim. So here he says, but Abba has also 5 chesadim, and I guess 5 gevuros in his yisod, and so in his das, and so somehow it gets through over here. Abba the Iba be yisoda, the yisoda as bechinas arucha. So this ultimately winds up in the Moach of Das, the Zer Anpin Hamalubish B'Yisod Ima. And then after that, so now you have the mochin that are inside of the Yisod inside of the Das of Zam. From here now the mochin start coming into Zam. Yisod the Ima as Bechinas HaRucha Shehoyabah. So he gets that aspect of Rucha, which you said previously was placed into her from Abba. So what happens then? At nighttime, Zun goes up to the level of Abba Ve'ima, and that's where the Bia Rishona takes place. As Bechinas HaRucha, there you see that Zan now is putting into the Nukva this aspect of the 5 Gevuros called Rucha. Ve'inyan Zechah B'Shelcha Zivug Debir Rishona, Hu Tikun Echad Hana'asach B'Yisod Hanuk, Lachabina Lachina as Hazivug. So he, again, excuse me, Hu Tikun Echad, this is one Tikun Hana'asach B'Yisod Hanuk, and it makes her Lachachina as Hazivug to make her prepared for Zivug. V'yesh Lecha B'Tikun Nosef, there's an additional Tikun, Yudayim, that takes place through the hands, and we haven't talked about that. The Iba Hamema'akos as Yisod Danuk, that she crushes or she squeezes down or pushes down. It makes it malleable, I think, the Yisod of the Nuk. Kafishi is Boyer Luchalan, that's going to be explained in more detail. V'ofen sheyeshnam shnei tikunim shonim shemechanach ba'osach of Rab b'shem sees the tikun kli hayisod the nuk. So there's 2 different things that affect the tikun of the yisod of the nuk. Avachavachem shtei inyanim nifradim. So he says, if you look in the Shefa, he's going to go into it, but now he's going to list. He says, Echad, one is Tikun Kli HaYisod Shalonuk, is the Tikun of the Kli of the Yisod of the Nuk. V'hu na'asach ha'yedech v'miyuch yudei Ima, that Ima managed to push down or to make malleable that Yisod. Number base, in the Sinas HaRucha, then the other one is that once that happens through he said through the hands, it says through the hands, so he says of Ima. The next one is putting this Rucha, Miyisod Zer Anpin, the Yisod the Nuk, Be'ez HaZivug the Bia Rishona, and that's what happens in the first Yichud. Is the V'rash Zechav Yivur Shtei Tikunim Elus. Now in this drush, we're going to talk about these 2 Tikunim. Now before I get into the Shefa, according to the time, how much time do we have today?
Till 6:23.
Well, it's going down 2 minutes every day. We're going to be splitting pretty soon. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so now we're going to look at number Yud Bet. So Yud Bet, it says, Ki zeh hazivug na'asa b'layla gorim tikun v'konenis. So then we have to skip a page here. A page Kuf Tes Vav now. And he says, v'konenis klicha yisod the nukva. So this is the preparation, the Kli of the Nukva. Kadei shetuchel acher kach la'alos mayim nukvin b'Kli hachu. So then after that she'll be able to elevate mayim nuklin b'Kli hahu. Now, just a second. He says, Kadei shetuchel acher kach la'alos mayim nuklin, into that Kli which has been made for her. The zivug on the asabayom, for the zivug, that's not, he doesn't say for, he says in the zivug on the asa, or with the zivug on the asabayom. Let's see how it translates out. Chazivugam and the asa balayla ba'aba v'iba v'zun. Heim kulam hachona the chazivugim sheya'asach b'yom hamacharis, that are going to take place on the next day. So here, the word macharis, I mean, you're at nighttime, at this time, for that yichud, you're already in the macharis. So he's referring to the morning. I think it should be the morning. Sheyase biyom macharis anyway, the zivugi halaylo, hem zivugi b'biya rishona, l'tzorach hasiyas v'tikun klicha yisod denok. So he says, the yom hem zivugim d'biya shniya, their yichudim of the second that takes place is the second kind of yichud, ha'ikrim l'tzorach halayda, which really is what you're trying to do, which will bring forth something like nu neshamas and etc. But the actual order of this is like this: the pasuk rishon, the kriya shema al hamita. So now you're at kriya shema al hamita, and your kavanah should be like this, and then you're going to say the first pasuk, which is Shema Yisrael. He says, "Sha'alamita mekuvanim as kavanas aziva debiya rishona darabba ve'ima." This is what you should have in mind when you say kriya shema at nighttime. I'll try to remember this. Shal yado yehei nisakin kliya yisod de'ima, because this is the yichud. When you say Shema Yisrael, this is going to be misakin, the kliya the yisod de'ima. V'hu ha'chana l'tzarech zivug de'aba ve'ima, and it's a preparation for the ultimate, for a higher level of zivug that's going to take place in Abba ve'ima hagamor loholeda, which will bring forth Neshama Chudashos, I don't know, but bring forth a new zun, or refreshed zun, Sheyasa the Malcha B'Kriya Shema the Shachris. But pasuk Baruch Shem Kavod Malchus, so now that then you say another pasuk right after the Shema, Mekuvanim as Kuvanas Zivug Bia Rishon the Zun. That's where you start thinking about the first Zivug of Zun. Sha'al Yado Yehei Nisakin Klicha Yisod the Nuk the Zer Anpin, because this is what makes the Yisod of the Nuk of Zer Anpin. V'hu ha'chana the Tzorach Zivug HaGamor the Cholei the Shia Asech of the Machar B'Tefi the Shachris, and that's a chachana for that. So I think that where you go now on this is to the Chef Hakavanot. So I just want to see if I... Let's try the Shefa on page Kuf Yud Bet, down at the bottom. And it says, number Yud Bet. He says, V'hine, hazivuk shal olala ben hazivuk da abba ve'imba ben hazivuk da zun, mukra chush yehir l'tzorach haschalas tikun l'zivuk shal chayom. So, everything at nighttime is rolling into the day. So let's see what happens here. Kosev Rava Kodesh Mekarmarno. I guess we read this yesterday, because I remember the name Mekarmarno. So maybe we could switch and go over here, although I don't remember what he said. But let's go over here to the Shefa Kavanos on the next page. He says, Ki zeh hazivuk hana'asa balayla gorim tikun v'konenis klicha yisod the nukvot tzarok ladas. He says like this. The Tiv says, you have to know the yeshnam shnei inyanim v'tikunim shonim. There are two different inyanim here, two different tikunim. Asher shneichem mechunim b'harber b'bekom b'shem b'siyas v'tikun klicha yisod the nuk. So this is like a big thing to start with. But really there's two separate things here. One is the tikun, the kliya yisod of the nuk. Okay, so now we're on page Kuf Yud Daled. We'll try to get into this. He says, Shalanuk, V'hu na'asa shalo ayedeh b'biyah rak b'hamshacha me'ima. So this takes place not through biyah, but rather through a hamshacha that comes directly from ima. Hamshacha sarucha me'yisod is there anpin the yisod the nuk. Hana'asas be'ez zivug debiyah rishona, which takes place at that first yichud, came before b'divik Rav. He says shehem shnei inyanim. Once again, he says these are two different things. Let's see if I can try to find it, follow this. He said, "V'kach bi'arno Rabbeinu." So the rabbis have explained like this, that Rabbeinu and Befarshim, and they're explaining like this. Where am I here? He said, "V'chashach of the hadgish inyan zeh." They want to point this out. He says, his Bible. It's very easy to get confused over here, really. So he says, get confused over here, his Bible. The Pam Medaber of Rabbi Inyan Tikkun Echad. One time he's talking about one Tikkun. The take of the Achracha, Medaber Inyan Tikkun Sheni. Because of the Shneichem Tikkun Klira Yisod the Nook, and both of them are called by this name. Also, I'm a little confused too. Also, so Ubir Shneich and Yonin, let me explain these two things. He said, Be'ela Bekitzer Hu, the Yeshno HaKli Shal the Yisod. Now here we have a Kli of the Yisod. V'hu Nisaken Bekoach Hamisha Gevuros Anim Shachim Al Hanok. Now I'm assuring that he means the Kli Yisod of the Nook. Ulevad mizech benita besocha klicha yisod bechinas arucho v'ayim b'meluim. So he says you have to look at the meluim over there. Shenis bayer in baricho. So he goes into it in detail. So far, it sounds like what we saw in the Tiv. V'hinech b'divrei harav kam yesh l'chayre iruv parshios b'mixas. There's a little mixture over here in the parshios. What does that mean? The maskal the dabba be'inya the zivug the abba be'iba the zun on the asa b'layla shuhu hatikun the bia rishona shabo nitna rucha mezer anpin anov v'la'achar mekan over the buyer as tikun klira yisod on the asa yedera be'ima. So now you have two different things here. So you have one is the fact that you're putting in the rucha into the nook, which as he said previously is the 5 gavoros into the nook. And the other one, Bala'achar Mekan, over the Vayr Tikkun Klira Yisod. Now we will talk about making the Yisod. It seems like that should be the first thing that you do, but Ana'aza Ayada'ima, Shuhu Tikkun Acher Ka'amor, which is a different Tikkun. They're two different things. So the one is Zeranpin into the Nook, which is bringing the 5 Gavuros in, and the other one is the setup that's making a made from Ima to Barta. Of a Vishuv La'achar Mekan Choyzer the Vayr as a Zivug the Bia Rishona. Then he goes back and he wants to explain what's playing in the first Yichud. So he said the Bia Rishona. B'toch Kadei Diber. In the midst of that, he says Choyzer the Vayr as a Tikkun the Sheni the Klira Yisod. So he goes back and goes over that again. Baal Kain. So therefore, Mishmuos Rehitas the Varav Mashpech Shechem B'Tikun Echad. It sounds like it's really all one thing, but actually they're two different actions. Amnam Anach B'Cholchim B'Ikvos Rabbeinu. So we're really going in their footsteps, I guess, so to speak. Hamafarshim Shabir Shehem Shnei Tikunim, who are all saying that these are two separate Tikunim. Well, you could see that I'm just thinking, when is it that Zer Anpin places the 5 Gavuros into the Nukva? That's when he's in a position of godless. Now, which comes first? He puts that into her, and she has to go through an Asira and come around to the front. Is that what we're talking about when he actually places these into her? And the other thing is that to build her up, she's being built up by the Yisod of Ima. Ba'alkein utzrachno the hoyer einech halomed. So which tikkun exactly is he talking about? And it emphasized that these are not one tikkun, they're two, and they're different things. Remember Yud Daled, he says, Hazivag ha'na'asa b'layla gorim tikkun v'konenis klicha yisod the nukva da, he says. Now this was the one he said earlier, this Yud Daled that he said earlier was going to refer to the Kadshaus, the Yichud of the Kadshaus, which I didn't quite understand from this, but let's see if there's anything I can do. Dan the cause of a Rashash, so know this, that the Rashash wrote like this. What they write? He wrote like this. Osios, on Osios Hey and Vav, he said, Chanisira Chanaasa b'techilas alayla. V'chein hazivug debir rishona Chanaasa b'chatzas alayla, same thing. I think it's the same thing. Parts of Kadsha HaKolol. So all of this that we're talking about, once again, the Nasira that we're talking about that takes place at nighttime, and the Bia Rishona that takes place at that time also. First he said at nighttime, but Techilas Alayla. I'm not sure what he meant by that. Does he mean at Marav time, or does he mean at after midnight, which is what I thought? So Kol zecha be'amba beparts of kad shah hakolo. Avacha partzufi Yaakov and Rachel, but when you're talking about the partzufim of Yaakov and Rachel, hapratim, them specifically. Again, I still don't have the count of the kad shah, except that he says that the chatzos alayla and what's happening at nighttime, those Yehudim are for the kad shah. So he says, partzufi Yaakov and Rachel hapratim, hanisaknim b'kol tefillah b'tefillah, which actually happens at every tefillah. So there's a difference between these. Hanisira shalachem na'asa b'tevis ba'av. So over there in chakras, or in whatever time we're talking about, where the tefillah is going on, it takes place of the word ba'av the birchos avos. So then after that yichud there, then I guess following after that, you have the tikkun of the kli for rucha. Amniyeh shalamdo, there is those are learned like this. Shomivad zen asa ke'es gam dormita v'nisira v'zivug debia rishona. So let's go through the string again. He says at the same time, he says na'asa dormita, that's their anpin, v'nisira, the removal of the nukva as a result of getting shefa from directly from Ima, the zivug devia rishona, and then also the partzufi Yaakov Leah and partzufi Elachim Pratim, the kli hapanimi, the yom etmol that takes place from yesterday. Now, unfortunately, I really don't follow that one more time. I'll read it one more time. V'yuin od b'meluyim. So over there, I don't know what the meluyim are, but he tells, look over there, you'll see more about the kad showers. What'd you say?
The back of the Saber, he has essays describing all these things in depth.
Okay, should we get back there? I'm sorry, I don't know. I haven't looked back there in the back of the Saber. Okay, so I'll look back there and I'll see if there's anything that can help me with this. I'm going to read it one more time. Am yeshalam dochusha milvad zen asa ke'es gam the darmita and the sira but the ziva debia rishona b'partzufi Yaakov Aleah hapratim the kli hapanimi the yom etmol of yesterday. So you have what? Today is the morning. Okay, so let's say that it's later in the day. Let's say it's mincha and marav time. He says the yichud that's going to take place at midnight. I guess he's talking about midnight. The kli panimi the yom etmol, and it has to do with the continuation of what was happening in the daytime. That's the way I'm hearing it. That's the best I know. Okay, number tesvav. Tikkun v'konenes kol klicha yisod the nukva. So let's go to tikkun and the preparation of the klicha yisod of the nukva. After my rechabekan b'beinacha b'india the tikkun to the sinus rucha b'bir rishona, even though that he was taught, that's what he's talking about. Him came madua kor lezecha b'shem tikkun klicha yisod. So why is he called it by that name? He said chavadacha b'tikkun kli yisod the nuk. Who tikkun acher b'fnei atzmacha na'azacha yedecha yedayim de'imacha kedlakamon. We're going to learn that later on. What is this thing about her hands? He said, I guess maybe it means the three hands, the three yads. This is 42. I'm not sure. So therefore, we find in the Rav over there, so this aspect of the rucha, he also calls it by the name kli. Kevin Shacharucha, who kli lahaman, because the rucha has the five gevuros, it's the five gevuros, who kli, it's the vessel for the man amislav shimbo that are clothed inside of it. Now I'm not sure I got all of that. Shakora gam the bechinas arucha b'shem kli, it's also called kli. Why? Kevin Shacharucha, who kli, because the rucha itself is a kli. It's a kli that's able to hold the mayim nukvin hamislav shimbo, which are mislavish in it, because it's their anpin, and their anpin is panimi to the malchus, I guess, and then you're able to be mislavish inside of, I guess, either he's panimi or he's outside or whatever it is, but they're able to come in together. Let's stop that here, and so we could go over to the other side.